Captain Elias Hart sat in the small shuttle, staring out at the endless black of space. Stars streaked past like shards of light. He tightened his grip on the controls, feeling the familiar tension that came with every mission behind enemy lines. Humanity was at war with the Scifi, an advanced alien species that had dominated half the outer colonies. Their ships were faster, their weapons deadlier, and their tactics unpredictable. Yet here he was, tasked with infiltrating a Scifi colony on the planet Zithera, a planet that was as dangerous as it was alien. Elias had been a soldier for almost a decade. He had seen death, destruction, and betrayal. He had faced enemies on countless battlefields, but nothing in his experience prepared him for what he was about to encounter. The orders were simple: gather intelligence, locate Scifi communications nodes, and return with whatever secrets he could. But something in the briefing made him uneasy. Intelligence had hinted at the presence of unexpected variables, something the Scifi were desperate to protect. The shuttle landed with a soft thud on the rocky surface of Zithera. Elias checked his equipment, ensuring his armor was secure and his weapons ready. The sky above was dark purple, swirling with thick clouds that pulsed with strange energy. The wind carried a metallic tang, and distant rumblings hinted at unstable tectonics beneath the surface. Every step he took was cautious. Every shadow seemed alive. Elias moved silently through the jagged terrain, approaching the Scifi settlement. It was unlike anything humans had built. Towering crystalline structures jutted into the sky, glowing faintly with an inner light. The Scifi themselves were tall and lean, their skin shimmering in patterns like liquid metal. They moved gracefully, their movements almost too precise, too synchronized. Elias's heart raced as he observed the patrols. One wrong step and he would be discovered. He crept closer, slipping between the crystalline towers, and scanned the area. The settlement seemed quiet, but Elias knew better than to trust appearances. His training kicked in, every sense alert, every muscle ready to react. Then he heard it, a soft whimper almost drowned by the distant hum of alien energy. He froze. It was coming from a narrow alley between two towers. Slowly he edged closer, peering around the corner. There, huddled against the wall, was a small figure. A child. Elias's eyes widened. The Scifi rarely allowed their young near the front lines. This child was alone, terrified, and vulnerable. "Kyle?" a voice whispered, but Elias didn't recognize the language. Still, he understood the fear. His heart tightened. He had a choice: leave the child and complete the mission, or intervene and risk everything. Humanity had taught him to value life, even in the face of danger. Elias stepped out of the shadows. "It's okay," he said softly, using a language the child might recognize. The child flinched but didn't run. Elias crouched, trying to appear non-threatening. Slowly, Kale, he assumed that was the child's name, reached out a trembling hand. "Come with me," Elias murmured. He didn't know if Kale could speak human, but gestures crossed boundaries. The child nodded, eyes wide with trust and fear. The retreat began. Every step was perilous. Scifi patrols moved in patterns that made escape tricky. Elias led Kale through narrow passages, avoiding detection with careful precision. At one point, a patrol turned a corner just as they were passing. Elias pressed Kale flat against a crystalline wall, holding his breath. The Scifi soldiers passed, their glowing eyes scanning the area but missing the two entirely. Elias exhaled slowly. As night fell, the alien sky darkened further and strange lights danced across the horizon. Elias found a small cavern to hide in. He set Kale down, letting the child rest while he planned the next move. Kale was quiet, clutching a small, glowing object to his chest, some kind of alien trinket or amulet. Elias wondered if it held value or significance. It didn't matter. Right now, survival was the priority. "Do you understand me?" Elias asked softly. Kale tilted his head, then nodded. It was a small victory, but it was enough. Elias gave the child a small ration pack. Kale ate slowly, cautiously, trusting Elias more with each passing moment. Elias couldn't help but think of the consequences. If the Scifi discovered the child missing, they would unleash everything at their disposal to retrieve him. And if humans discovered that Elias had taken a Scifi child? Well, he didn't want to imagine the military response. Yet despite the danger, Elias felt a surge of determination. He would protect this child no matter the cost. Humanity had taught him one thing above all else: courage, honor, and compassion. Even in the heart of war, these traits could shine brighter than any weapon. The night passed slowly. Elias kept watch, listening to the distant rumble of Safari patrols and the eerie hum of the planet's strange energy. Kale slept fitfully, murmuring in his alien tongue. Elias realized that the child was not just a random civilian. There was intelligence behind those eyes, a sharpness unusual for someone so young. He made a mental note. Kyle might be important in ways he didn't yet understand. By morning, Elias had devised a plan. They would move toward the extraction point, a hidden landing site where a human reconnaissance ship would pick him up. It was risky, but staying in the settlement was far more dangerous. He lifted Kale carefully and began the trek across jagged rock formations, keeping to shadows and silent paths. Hours passed, and the alien terrain tested them both. Kale, though small, kept up remarkably well, showing a resilience that impressed Elias. He noticed subtle movements in the child, the way he sensed danger before it arrived, how he instinctively sought cover. There was something almost human in his adaptability, yet undeniably alien. Elias realized that Kale was not just surviving. He was learning from him, observing every action, every decision. By midday, the sound of Safari alarm sirens echoed through the valley. Elias froze. Someone had discovered the child's absence. Patrols would be coming soon. He grabbed Kale and sprinted, ducking into a narrow crevice that led to an underground tunnel. The child's small hands clung to him tightly, and Elias felt a fierce protective instinct he hadn't experienced before. This was no longer a mission. It was a personal vow. Inside the tunnel, Elias crouched, catching his breath. Kale's eyes were wide, scanning the shadows. Elias spoke softly. "We're almost safe. Just a little longer." Kale didn't reply, but his grip tightened, an unspoken bond forming between them. Elias felt a swell of pride. Humanity often believed itself alone in the universe, but in moments like this he realized that courage, empathy, and trust were universal. They emerged from the tunnel just as the Safari patrols passed overhead. Elias led Kale toward a rocky ridge that overlooked the extraction zone. In the distance, the human reconnaissance ship shimmered against the alien sky, almost like a beacon of hope. He quickened his pace, careful to remain unseen. Kale stumbled once, and Elias caught him instantly, muttering reassurances. Finally, they reached the extraction point. Elias signaled the ship, and after tense moments, a small craft descended, its doors opening for them. They ran, and Kale stepped inside, glancing back at the planet one last time. Elias followed, sealing the hatch behind them. As the ship rose into space, Elias allowed himself a rare moment of relief. He glanced at Kale, who now sat quietly, observing the humans around him. The child was safe for now, but Elias knew that their journey had only begun. Somewhere out there, Kale's mother would be searching, relentless and determined. And somewhere inside Elias, a new mission was taking shape. Protect this child, understand him, and maybe, just maybe, change the course of the war. Elias Hart, human soldier, stared out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, the war far from over. But one thing was clear: this child, this alien life, had reminded him of the best of humanity. Courage, compassion, honor. Traits that no weapon, no alien technology, no war could ever take away. And with Kale by his side, Elias was ready to face whatever came next. The neutral zone was quiet now, the dust settling over the cracked ground. Elias Kane held the small Voran child in his arms, her silver blue skin soft and warm against his chest. She had curled up as if sensing safety for the first time in her short life. The war around them was far, but its shadow stretched close, and Elias knew this calm would not last. From the horizon, a Voran scout ship approached with silent grace. Its metallic hull reflected the fading light of the twin suns, making it gleam like liquid silver. Elias instinctively tightened his hold on the child. Rhea, his co-pilot, muttered under her breath, "Well, this is going to get interesting." As the ship landed, a figure emerged, tall, poised, and commanding. Her skin shimmered pale silver like the child's, and her four eyes glinted with authority and anger. This was Commander Lyra, mother of the child Elias had rescued. She stepped forward, every movement precise and deliberate, like a predator analyzing its prey. "You are human," she said in a tone that mixed caution and disbelief. "Why is my child in your hands?" Elias stood straight, holding the child securely. "I found her trapped in the ruins. She couldn't survive alone. I brought her here." Lyra's eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe that? After centuries of war, you, human, choose to save a Voran child? What trick is this? No trick, Elias replied evenly. I save lives. Not enemies, not friends, lives, that's it. The child stirred in his arms, blinking up at him with trust-filled eyes. Lyra's gaze softened just slightly as she crouched to gather her child. The reunion was tense, yet there was relief in the small gestures. The mother checking her child for injuries, the child leaning into her warmth. Elias stepped back, giving them space. You have no right to be here, Lyra said sharply once the child was safely in her arms. You interfere in matters beyond your understanding. We could have lost her forever. I understand more than you think, Elias said calmly. I know what fear feels like. I know what it's like to lose someone you love. That's why I couldn't leave her behind. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. There was anger, curiosity, and something else she couldn't name. She had been raised to distrust humans, to see them only as warmongers. Yet this human, he had acted differently. He had risen above the expectations of his kind. Rhea, standing nearby, whispered, Commander. She's not going to attack you, yet, but don't let your guard down. Lyra's posture stiffened. I do not attack when I am unsure, she said. But this changes nothing. Humans and Voran are enemies. You cannot undo that, Elias nodded. I know, I'm not trying to undo the war. I'm only trying to do what is right. The neutral zone commander, a human named Major Talon, stepped forward. Captain Kane, the Voran patrols are demanding explanation. They will not leave quietly. You've caused complications. His tone was a mix of irritation and admiration. Still, you saved a child. That takes guts. Elias gave a small shrug. It's not about guts. It's about doing what matters. Lyra, holding her child close, finally spoke again. You will wait here, she said firmly. I will not leave without assurance that no harm comes to her. And human, your presence is noted. Elias met her gaze. I'll wait. As long as it takes, the hours stretched on. The suns dipped below the horizon, leaving the neutral zone bathed in pale twilight. Elias and Lyra found themselves forced into proximity, not by choice but by circumstance. They spoke carefully, words measured, but each exchange carried weight. You humans always act recklessly, Lyra said at one point, her tone sharp but not cruel, charging into danger without thought for yourself or others. And you Voran are too cautious, Elias replied. Sometimes hesitation costs lives, sometimes action saves them. There was a flicker of surprise in Lyra's eyes. No human had ever spoken to her like this. Not so calm, not so confident. And yet, there was no malice, no hidden agenda. The child, sensing the tension but also the safety, crawled to Elias's side. She reached out with a small hand, touching his arm. Elias looked down and smiled softly. It's okay, he said. You're safe. Lyra watched the small gesture. Something inside her shifted. Humans were supposed to be ruthless, unfeeling predators. Yet here was one, standing among the ruins, holding her child as if it were the most precious thing in the universe. Night fell. The neutral zone was quiet except for the hum of distant engines and the soft rustle of wind across the barren plains. Elias and Lyra set up a small temporary camp, the child resting between them. It was awkward at first, both aware of the fragile truce and the tension of centuries-old hatred. But necessity demanded cooperation. Why did you risk yourself? Lyra asked finally, her voice softer, almost a whisper. Elias looked at the child sleeping soundly, then back at Lyra. Because it was the right thing to do. Nothing else matters if a life is lost when it could be saved. Even if it's your child. Lyra's eyes searched his face, trying to read motives, trying to understand this strange human. She had expected lies, betrayal, or arrogance. Instead, she saw honesty and courage. And somewhere deep inside, an emotion she had never allowed herself to feel began to stir. Trust. The next day, word spread. Scouts reported the human who had saved the child. Among the Voran, rumors of Elias Kane's act began to circulate. Some were outraged. Others were shocked into silence. On the human side, reactions were mixed. Some called him reckless, others praised him quietly. One thing was clear. No one could ignore the fact that a human had shown mercy. Lyra watched Elias as he maintained calm, tending to the child, preparing for any possible attack. She wanted him to leave, yet a part of her wanted him to stay. He was human, yes, but unlike any human she had ever known. His bravery, his morality, his quiet strength. It was irresistible and frustrating all at once. During a brief lull, Lyra approached him. "You think this changes the war?" she asked, her tone guarded. "No," Elias said honestly, "but it can change minds. It can show that humans aren't only destruction. Some of us, we care. Some of us, we act for what is right, not just for survival." Lyra studied him. She had seen many warriors in her life, none like him, and yet, she could not deny a strange pull in her chest, a feeling she had no words for. That evening, as the sun set again, Elias and Lyra sat near a small fire. The child nestled safely between them. Elias handed Lyra some water, and their fingers brushed. It was a small, innocent gesture, but both felt the weight of it. "You are different," Lyra admitted softly. "From what I expected, from what I feared." Elias gave a faint smile. "Maybe not all humans are the same. Maybe not all Voron are the same either." A small laugh escaped Lyra, brief and unguarded. "Perhaps not," she said. The child stirred and looked up at them both, her small eyes wide. For a moment, the war, the hatred, the fear, all seemed distant. They were just 3 lives in a quiet neutral zone, safe for now. But deep down, Elias knew this temporary peace could not last. Lyra would return to her world, her people, and he would to his. And yet, something had begun between them, something fragile, like the first spark of a fire in the dark. As the night deepened, Lyra finally said, "You have done something no human has ever done in my eyes. You have shown mercy where none was expected, that it was dangerous. For you and perhaps for me as well." Elias nodded, understanding. "I know, but I would do it again. And I would not hesitate." Lyra's eyes softened again, lingering on his face. "We will see where this path leads," she whispered, almost to herself. And in that quiet night, under the pale stars of Calyx 7, a new bond began to form. One built on trust, courage, and the undeniable truth that sometimes humanity could shine brightest in the darkest of times. But neither of them knew how dangerous it could become, or how much the war, their worlds and their duties would challenge what had just begun.